What's going on, guys? I just wanted to jump on here real quick and stream. I wanted to go over Friday's action, my thoughts about what happened Friday, how we caught a banger to start off the new year, and then I want to go over kind of my thoughts on war situation and everything that's going on right now. I think that's talk of Twitter right now, so everyone's going crazy over that. So let's kind of just get into that now. I'm going to go over just Friday's trades, right? I took one trade, banger trade, and it was spy puts. After that kind of morning dump, after that, it was kind of we're just in range. So it was just faster plays after that. I did see some decent lotto plays, but the thing was, I called the bluff on the upside, and I knew that for many reasons. Now, when I went into Friday, I saw that we gapped up, right? And so if you're a newer trader or if you were, a trader that got Friday wrong, say you weren't swinging anything, you just got your day trade wrong. You went in there with a fresh mindset and you just got it wrong. I'm kind of talking to you right now. So let's go over kind of how we could have spotted or how you could have spotted, the setup and went with it. Now, pre-market, I did see, I tweeted it out. We gapped up pretty nicely, right? So you can see it was pretty decently low volume, but QQ closed down here around 614 area and gapped up to 620. So really decent move. Now, it wasn't that big of a gap, right? That's still a good $5, but we were just right back to kind of Friday's action, Thursday or that Wednesday's action, right? Because New Year's Thursday. So we really weren't breaking like weekly highs or anything crazy like that. Now, Q did have a gap up here at 623, 622 that I've been eyeing since, Tuesday or Monday. And so, when we gapped down, they tried to even take that out on Friday, which I wasn't surprised when we saw that push up. I knew exactly that push up was so shortable because in so many different ways, and we're going to go over it. So we did gap up here and we just pushed back into range. Now, tech was the kind of the driving factor here, right? We saw NVIDIA, gap up out of demand here, and it finally broke out above that 191, 190, went to 193 almost, which was a pretty good move. But I'm pissed off because I was watching this. I was watching this all week, and some of these setups when I woke up pre-market on Friday that were already happening that I was waiting for all week. Right, the NVIDIA extended play, we already played it out of 187, 186, and we touched 190, 191, and we banked off that. Now I was waiting for the roll up here and it happened Friday and I didn't go for that for obvious reasons. Amazon did exactly, we were squeezing in this 233, 231, just area for days, guys. We're in this zone, rejecting it for days. And Friday, as you know, right there, we gapped up and then it opened up. Look at this massive hourly candle, pretty nasty stuff right there. But, it did exactly what I wanted, where it broke that 233 and ran to 235 supply zone. From there, it absolutely rejected and fell all the way down to 225. So disgusting work, but it did get the breakout. It was a failed breakout. I didn't chase it. Obviously, I didn't play any calls Friday. But again, that was a setup I was waiting for all week and it couldn't do it. And then it just snuck it in Friday just to reject. Diabolical. Now, Google did the same exact thing. Look at that. I was waiting for this move out of this channel, preferably above 315. and it gapped up. You can see pre-market above 315. And, this would have been one of those ones where if SPY Q didn't have gaps, even then, I don't know. This would not have. I just didn't like the gaps. I can't get too bullish when there's gaps below us. Google opened up and knifed into the gap. I don't know. I don't know if this ended up pushing up first and then ended up coming down to the gap. I would assume it pushed up first. It really lulled a lot of people at open to slam calls, and they got dunked on there while I was slamming puts right at that open. But I would assume it opened up and launched through that 317 level, and 321, 320 was my target. So opened up above 315. I probably would have took those calls the moment we broke that 317 level right there, ran it to 320, 321, would have made some money. Better than Amazon, but it ended up getting dunked. It ended up reversing. So, obviously I didn't go tech or I didn't go calls on the upside because I knew what QQ probably had in store here, which was eating this gap. There was no reason for us not to eat this gap. Friday lottos and things like that. It's just, we just had a high probability. And so as we started, as we opened up and we started pushing, that was the thing. We opened up and started pushing. Now, this one was interesting, right? I needed to see if sellers stepped in at all, and they did. I saw sellers step in and start hitting the tape. I saw a whale hit the tape at 614 lower down here, so I knew they're probably at least going to fill the gap, right? The fill the gap was 614, 60, and you can maybe see it on the volume analysis right around here. I know you can't really see it actually because I'm in the way, but there's 614.24 on the tape, 612, 613. And then a sell at 619. So, I mean, there are sellers all up on the tape, no buyers really. So I saw that. I saw we pushed up and I was like, perfect. They're giving it to us even cheaper. Q did have a small gap up here that it couldn't even fill. It filled some of it. You can see it's still highlighted. And again, this was just one of those where, we had the next target up resistance. We had a gap right there, and then we're still in range. So there's a lot of sellers on the tape. So, yeah, again, this was just one of those where there's just too many resistance ahead of us for me not to try the short. Too many gaps below on a lot of these names. And so I was like, all right, now I like QQ, but the setup isn't as clean, right? We're opening above this zone. We're in between zones. We have gaps above a big one below. It's not really the cleanest, right? And so that's why I was like, okay, well, I see the setup. It's not the cleanest. You know what is the cleanest? SPY. SPY is extremely clean. And the reason why I say that is because notice this hourly right here where it went zone to zone, right? We opened up at 685.56. So right at this zone right here is where we opened up. Ironically, I mean, you can see we opened up on the daily, hourly, 4-hour, all that under this yellow trend line. So even though we're opening up higher, we're opening up under a yellow trend line on a higher time frame. We're opening up out of supply, and we have a huge gap below. On top of that, we have 686 level of resistance, then 687, and then a 688. Just in case we get squeezed. But again, we're making lower. I would say. Lower highs, right? Lower highs. Because look right here, we rejected that day before that, rejected the day before, Friday, we're opening up a little bit lower there. And so that all just makes sense for me to take a stab at that. So I did not short the pop exactly. I waited for them to hit the pop. And once it started coming down and then ended up crossing, which was my trigger point right there at 685.24, I slammed those puts and obviously worked, immediately. I called it out to the team, of course. They got the alert. I slammed those puts. We were up, 50% in like 5 minutes, 100% in 15 to 30 minutes. And then end of the day, those went like 300%. But regardless, stress-free trade, banger, made a bag, and starting the new year off right. That's how you do it right there, people. Stress-free. Didn't need to keep slamming puts. I don't really see kind of much of us going lower. I would have expected us to hit our target down there, and we perfectly did, guys. This is why you need to have your charting on point, because notice where we literally wicked on Friday on SPY, where the low of that day was right there. And the low of that day was 679.82. 679.82. You can see it right there. 679.82. And where is my purple line? 679.83, almost to the penny. We went one under it on the penny. Purple line. Now, I know if you're not a RegalCap member, a purple level here signifies that it's a major level, meaning we usually, it's like a trampoline or or a roof. It's a major level. Anytime we get to it, it's where buyers and sellers completely agree at that level, and so it acts as a huge kind of launch pad or resistance site, depending on what side we're on. And when we're above it, so it's going to act as a trampoline for now, holding us. So that's why I'm thinking Monday we might actually go bullish. We might actually go upside. We might actually see green in the market. That's where I'm kind of very interested to possibly see us do that. And so that's why I want to jump on here, kind of give my 2 cents on that. And, the market loves to fill a gap, right? We filled that gap, and we also still have an open gap at that 688, 689 area for SPY. We're inside this channel here. I like it, right? Say we push up a little bit, reject again, come down, end up pushing back up, and then, downtrend breaking out. We're going to, just run to all-time highs again. If we keep up with this channel, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And yeah, whenever that happens, I'll be ready to make a bag again, so I like this channel. It's clean. It's super clean. I can make sense of this a lot better. I can play Q as well. But that's what I kind of tell you guys, make sense of your setups, right? NVIDIA was really good. I liked NVIDIA. It showed a lot of strength. It was probably the only name that was showing the most strength. Even though it did push up and reject here, it has the gap below that it filled a little bit, but they fought it a lot. You can see right there, a lot of wicking on the downside. It got to that gap, but couldn't quite fill it at all. So this is easily a setup I'm going to be looking for going into Monday, right? Because we have all this down here that we easily can come down to 186. Still a little bit of a move, not, nothing crazy, but I could still make 30, 40, 50% off this easy, depending on what strike I go. So easy right there. But, let's see what they do. Let's see what bulls do. We're still holding on to this. If we can feel that hold and come right back up, NVIDIA's gearing up for a really big move. Also has a gap down here. So I'm keeping an eye on under that 186.30 level. Pretty much that bottom level. This is the same level that held on all week. You can see right there where where it faked out earlier in the week. We got down to it, all these times we wicked and it held every single time. So this demand, this bottom level shows us buyers are definitely here and holding it. I know that if we end up losing it, we're just going to dump all the way down to 181. It's a $5 move. I like that way better. And we're having a gap inside of it. This could easily front run or, slingshot this into losing it and really getting that move down. So essentially, 188 to 186 is a $2.50 move here. Essentially, it could easily be an $8 move if it continues all the way down. So we don't know. But I'm fine with taking whatever gain I can get there. And say if it turns into or snowballs into something bigger, then I'll be banking heavily, stop, sweat, buy, let it ride, see what happens. But I like that, right? I like it. We'll just kind of see what happens there. But, war news, things going like that, likely market's going to go green, and the market likes war, right? It stimulates, our defense sector. We can see, a lot of these defense names, really, oil starts to go down. So, oil is kind of like an inverse to our market. If oil goes down, our market's going to go green. It's just a lot of good, the market just likes it. So I'm very curious to see what happens. Now, what I'm also curious is, Venezuela has a lot of gold, silver, that's precious metal. There's a lot, and it makes a lot of sense now why gold and silver are rocketing and, going into this, because, this may have been, foreseen a little bit. So that's pretty interesting right there on how silver and gold are going to keep moving up. We did see a huge pullback after, like Christmas, right after Christmas. And it's kind of just, lingering back at the levels of like mid-December. We still have a huge gap up here that's still open for gold, GLD up here. So, calls could work if we end up kind of moving back up in that range to fill that gap. So that would be very interesting. Yeah. So again, Amazon, and it didn't trigger. Ooh, Tesla was a good one. Tesla Fridays. I said it on the Lotto watch list, like under 447 puts will work for a move down to 439 and 436 demand, and it did exactly that. You can see right there. You could have entered right there on this hourly. It opened up under 447. It looked like it retested it up there perfectly, rejected, came all the way down. So from 445-ish to 447, all the way down to 437. $10 move, dude, with their lottos, man, you would have got like 1,000% off that. Easy, easy, especially midday. Oh my God. I love it. Tesla Fridays are some of the best. Some of these setups are pretty good, but going into Friday, these look really good. I like it. Let's just kind of see what happens now. We are QQ bounced out of 611, 610 demand. This is the same area I told you guys not too long ago that we have a lot of support at. A lot of support, just a lot of traffic, right? 611, 610 demand, 609, 608 demand, 607, 606. It's just a lot of traffic, a lot of support. And, we ended up dipping to that 600 and support kicked in and we pushed right out. And days later, we're back at 623, 624. So let's see kind of what happens when we get back down there again. We do have a little gap at 608, 609. I would assume that would probably get filled maybe. We do have a little bit gap at 602, 601 area. That's also another place of interest that just in case we do come down, I'm extremely bullish on QQ above 600. So as long as we stay above 600, that is going to be bullish for me. I will play puts on gaps and stuff like that, but I'm not going to be loading the boat and trying to hammer it on any given day because easily we can flick right back up and, bulls be definitely in control. So, that is definitely something I kind of keep an eye on as well. So you never know. But I do like this setup. Again, we have a lot of support down here. Would not be surprised they try and push this right back up into that range, into Friday's range, things like that. So yeah, SPY was, that was a really good move. Friday was a really good move. It was just understanding a few things, right? Understanding first the gap fill. Now, these gap fills are amazing because this is on the hourly. This isn't just on the daily. Hourlies are different from the daily gap fills. This is just one of those that, like, when we get to it, it's more than likely we're gonna knife straight into it, right? When it's like low liquidity like that, or liquidity there, and there's like low order stacked, and we just cut through it, thin air, just cut through it. It's good. Now, I think a lot of people kind of, I would say, misconstrue daily gaps with hourly gaps because yes, daily gaps did create there, but the daily gaps don't need to fill the same day. It's a higher probability that hourlies fill like this. So when you can recognize that, you can say, all right, this looks really good, right? But I need confirmation. Confirmation for me, best thing is just wait for us to start eating the gap. You can see pre-market, we started lowering into the gap and we held into our, my zone here. Now, I'm still going to trust the zones over the gaps or anything else. I'm going to trust the zones. So we opened up there at the top. It pushed up, right? And this candle was green to start it off. Once it rejected down and started going red, that's where I'm like, okay, this is a major reversal candle already beginning. We're already going into a gap here and we're rejecting supply. That's like a 4-to-1 trade for me in my eyes. I'm full porting. Like, I don't care if it's lottos. I don't care if it's 1 days. I went 1 days. Just in case, they end up kind of fighting a little bit and then they get the dump. Regardless, you easily could go the 1 days, you can go lottos, knowing that type of candle pattern and, the gap fill, boom, like it's going to knife straight in and you're going to bank. Like you're going to bank. It's just kind of recognizing that move. And if you can recognize it, I promise you, you're going to make a lot of money, especially if you don't trade anything other than that, right? They gap fills come all the time. Sometimes they come once a week, sometimes they come twice a week, sometimes, more, but it all depends, right? Gap ups, gap downs, the gaps always create, and you can always look for them on different names. Now, different names move a little different than SPY and QQ. The reason why I love SPY and QQ is because it's very rare that we hit a gap and then get away from it, like bounce away from it and then keep going into the week. It's very rare that it happens with SPY and QQ. It is not rare to see that on a individual name, right? Like AMD, Amazon, Google, like certain names will slap the gap and the second you think you're all good, it just reverses and runs the high of day and takes you out. I've seen it. I've seen Visa hit a gap on the daily, and I almost slammed puts. that day, but I didn't. I saw it hit the gap, it stopped, and it held up all day and it closed. I was like, oh, that looks like it's going to drop into the next day easy, right? Hit the gap easy, overnight work. But I was like, nah, I'm not going to chance it because it's an individual name. For Spine Q, I'm doing it all day. For an individual name, I'm not. So that day, Visa, I was like, I'm not going to. I just had a hunch. I ended up like trading other things the next day, forgetting about it. I think I went back and looked at it a month later. A month later, that was the low for the month of that day that I was looking at. It hit that gap and ran to new all-time highs a month later. Like it just rocketed. It diabolical work right there. So that's why I was like, that's why I'm like, man, you can't really trust individual names when it comes to gaps. Now, they do hit it. Don't get me wrong, but it's harder to gauge it if they're going to hit it right then and there, or if they're going to take a day or two or a week or whatever the case may be. That's the kind of bad part about it. So, I would say if you're going to be looking for, that move, look for it on Spine QQ, right? And, if you want my trades, of course, I'm playing it, right? RioCap.com or WAP.com/Rio Capital. Sign up, get my trades. I am taking those 100%, especially if it's on a Monday, gap fill Mondays, baby. That's it right there, son. I'm going for it. I'm full porting it. I'm killing it. Those are the ones. These are the type of plays on Friday. Like you just got to go heavy because that's the high conviction. That's my favorite. Like that is my golden star setup right there. Now the hardest part is, just I would say, waiting for it, right? If you just traded nothing but that, you would make so much money out the year, but you would have to show up every single day and be like, okay, no gap, then, I'm not going to touch anything. No gap, I'm not going to touch anything. Okay, gap, it's time, right? So things like that, that would be insane. Now, we have a gap up here, right? We gap down. Gap downs are a lot harder to play than gap ups. We gap down and we kept this hourly open. Now, this is the harder thing, right? I played that on that day with the move up on calls and we banked and it closed the daily gap, but it did not close the hourly gap. I know this is still sitting here and I know that when we get to it, I'm going to bank on it, right? And I'll wait for it. I would have to wait. We end up downtrend breaking out. We'd have to break my 688.90 and then just move to zone. And I know I'm going to win on those calls. I know I could size up on that. And I know I'm just going to trust zone to zone. So I'm going to make zone to zone like not my normal, but I know liquidity's there. So I know it's likely just going to even help me even more. So it's going to be like a 100% winner right there. And that's what I'm looking for right there. Absolutely. So we'll see. You got to have you got to keep in mind these little things that happen. And you're going to see these, I would say, type of trades or type of setups. As long as you stay patient, you'll definitely get them. Breaking, North Korea just fired at least 2 ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. Geopolitical risk back on the tape. Defense names pumped this week. Yeah, I would assume defense is going to pump for sure. But again, you don't want to be going into that Monday trying to chase them because likely, they're not going to keep running. It's either you should have already been in them swinging calls into the weekend, cashing out on Monday, because usually if you're, getting the news and you're already late, you're chasing the move. And if you're chasing the tailwind, that's where a lot of traders lose and they don't understand that. You're chasing the move, you're getting the end of it, you're losing already. So you're paying premiums and you're going to lose. It's just how it goes. So you want to be on time. Too early, not good either. You want to be on time, right? On time, being ready. What does on time mean? That means waking up on Friday, seeing that there's a nasty, nasty gap set up right, waiting for you right there, and you are on time. You're waking up right at the open. You're not hesitating, no nothing. You're waiting for the signs. You get the push up, it goes green. You're like, okay, let's see what happens. And they reject it, coming right down. Boom, slamming those puts and riding out, baby. That's how you do it. So that's what I mean about being on time and being just, ready for it. So I'm excited for next week. Really good start to the year. And let's just lock in, people. Obviously I'm going to stream tomorrow night. We'll go over some setups I'm seeing kind of on top of what I'm, talking about already today. But, let's lock in, guys. Let's lock in. RioCap.com. If you want my trades, become a member, become a top member. I love live trading. You'll get live trading as a top member. Mentor sessions. If you want a mentor session with me, when you're a top member, you can get that. All you gotta do is request it, DM me, shout me out, whatever in chat, and be like, hey, let's jump on a call like this, and let's get right. Let's talk about it. Tell me a little bit more about the gap fills. Tell me a little bit more about what to look for, and then what strikes would you go with, right? Because that's another thing. if I'm seeing the gap fill here and I know we're going to fill this gap, right? I know that. Then where's the gap kind of end at, right? 682. Okay. Well, that also aligns with my demand, meaning buyers could try and step in here and defend it. And they did a little bit. You can see that we did open up in this demand, and you can see that wick right there, but we ended up just going lower. And so I want to avoid that. I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to play the first hour dump right there. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. So if I'm slamming puts up here, it's 685, 686 where I'm at, I know I can get some cheap 682 one dates, right? For under $100 that I know these will go 300. I know these will go 200%. I know it. So that's what I'm looking for, right? Where's your target at? 682 is my target. Okay, then I'm going 682 strike, knowing they will go at the money, in the money. I'm not going to go 680s. I'm not going to go, 665s because they're $5 and they might move to 20. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go a few strikes out the money at most. And no, I'm going to a strike where I know they're going to end up going at the money or in the money. That's it. And you're making the difference off the offset of the market in the trade. That's literally what you're looking for right there. The best way I can describe it is, the imbalance is what you're looking for, and you want to bank off that. So I would definitely say that's what the kind of strikes you want to be looking for. I went to 682s, knowing they should go at the money, in the money, and they did all the way about $2 in the money, all the way at the low of day there. But I was all out at the 682 demand as we sliced just straight into that. Just beautiful work right there. And I was done, right? I was done. Easy stuff. And if you follow RealCap AI called it out as well. It caught the morning push on Google and Nvidia, and then it also didn't even mess around with SPY and QQ upside. It slammed puts on that for that move down. So pretty awesome stuff. If you want that, wap.com/realcapital, get full access to that. I updated every Sunday the watch list for the names. Obviously, it's always going to be SPY and QQ. And then if you want futures, it already has futures, ES, MNQ. But the watch list updates on what names I'm looking for our setups, right? Like this week was Google, Amazon, a couple other that we knew the upside should be coming. And it caught that nicely. So I always update it every Sunday on the setups I'm seeing, post a chart, and then, update RealCap AI. So, you got the chart, you got the help. I'm there too. I'm calling out the shots, we're banking. How can we not bank? If I'm calling out the shots, RealCap AI is calling the shots with me. We got charting, we got, trend updates, we got it all. We know where we're at. So it's super easy, to just kind of stay up to date and just be aware of where we're at and things like that. So pretty cool stuff, guys. Pretty cool stuff. Questions, let me know. If not, I really just wanted to hop on here, go over the Friday setups, how we caught that. That was a beautiful move. Started off quick $1,000 for me, quick $1,000. I could have made so much more, but I think plays like this happen fast, but not that fast. I feel like I could have gone QQ for the bigger. QQ sold off a lot more. I could have just turned around and took QQ as well. But, QQ ended up, dumping from 617, 62 would have been my trigger right there. All the way to the next zone to 611, 610, way bigger move there. So $6 move. Yes, I could have easily done that. But again, I'm taking the win. I can't be mad at 100, 200%. Can't be mad at if it goes 300%. You can't be mad at that. You got to take your wins, keep it pushing, and just know that it's all good. And on top of that, just know that you're winning. You're catching these moves. You could be totally lost and not knowing where you're at. So always think of that in that perspective. You're catching these moves and you're winning on it. And the next one you'll size up, and the next one you'll be more ready, and the next one might be a little bit cleaner, And so as long as you recognize it and you keep, repetition playing, you're gonna definitely kill it. You're gonna definitely keep winning it. You're definitely gonna run up the money, because the money grows fast on moves like this. So if you followed me, you definitely would have banked over. My calls went over 200%. If you followed, 200, 300%. So pretty cool stuff. So get my trades, guys. Get my live trading as well. Mentorship, guys. You guys got to lock in for 2026. Sign up for the yearly and just lock in with me. Get the yearly membership, lock in. Let's go. Run it and run it up with me. It's so simple. Like, just stay locked in. And when when you see things like this, or check pre-market and be like, all right, pretty good gap up. Like, this is just one of those days. It's time to win. We're going to really make a lot of money. So lock in. I would say for those struggling, pick one good setup that you've won on that or that you understand really well, right? Like a flag pattern, bull flag, bear flag, weekly high break or weekly low break, something like that where you can get a grasp of it and then you've played it and you won on it and you're comfortable with it and then keep playing it. That's it. Just keep playing it when you see it. And I promise you, you're gonna definitely win on it. And you'll definitely, really just run it up. Now the hardest part is just fighting that urge to do some the gen stuff, like you see SpyX and you want to do some crazy stuff with it when you haven't been trading it at all. I get it. I get it. I'm the same way. I did touch some SpyX this week. I think I alerted one of the plays, right? Things go 30, 40, 50% fast and you got to be on top of it, right? This definitely would have been a one, the SPY QQ on Friday. That definitely would have been a one where it pushed up and as it pulled down, you definitely could have slammed SpyX and made a bag, as it ends up pulling down. I get it. You could, as if you're fast, you can go SPY and SpyX quick and let it ride and, watch the money pile in. So, as long as you know where SPY's QQ are at, that is your foundation. That is, you understand where everything is at. Things will, be a false breakout, right? I could have easily chased Amazon. I could easily chase Google at open and not know why it ended up pulling all the way down. Well, it ate the gaps below because all these names had gaps. On top of that, SPY and QQ were the driving factor here. So if you don't know where SPY and QQ are, then how are you supposed to know when a failed breakout is going to come? How are you supposed to know when a failed breakdown is happening or, fake outs and things like that? It's very, you just have to be on top of it and know where you're at when it comes to, those certain names. So, have the right levels, join them. If you want a mentorship with me or a mentor session, I can teach you how to, spot some of these levels. And, you just throw them on your chart. And I'm telling you that right there would just improve your trading overall. If you can at least know where sellers are at, buyers are at, and then start playing from there, it's going to start opening your eyes a lot more to some of these massive setups, right? Because SPY and QQ on Friday, these are some of my get rich just patterns. And so the reason why I went SPY over QQ is the move was cleaner. It wasn't a bigger move, which if I was chasing the bigger move, then sure. But from 686 all the way down to 682, 681. Again, the whole from high to low is a $6 move. What I caught, was from 686 all the way down to 682. So a $4 move on some lottos or on some one days, I'm banking sure. And it was a cleaner move because it aligned with my zones. It aligned with my strategy. I could have gone QQ being, all right, QQ is up way more than SPY here, meaning it's got to come down harder. Yes, you can kind of go with that logic, but not always, right? The way Q opened and started aggressively pushing, I was like, I don't want to short that. Tech is pushing up right now. Let's just see what happens because this easily can turn to a gap and go. But if it doesn't, I know SPY's lagging. And if, Q gives it up, SPY's going to go down fast and first. That's what I'm looking for. And it did. SPY was going red first before, QQ, and then QQ really caught up and started, pulling down as Tech really started to kind of give it up there and really, really start eating their gaps below. And so you got to kind of weigh that out as well. Pre-market, you got to see that pre-market and understand, what it looks like. So looks like NASDAQ is bearish for this week. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, it has been bearish really all week. Even with low volume, we were, kind of just pulling down, into this holiday week or, New Year's week. We're kind of just like every pop was just getting sold. And QQ, like I saw that we just could not break this 621 level. Notice that is the level we slapped on Friday where we completely sold off. Notice the past few days, we wicked, but the body of the candle is going to tell you the story. The body could not do it. Notice how on 1229, 1230, we wicked above and tried eating that gap up there that that it created on 1229. It couldn't do it. It could not do it at all. And it just shows the levels work. And Friday was no different on that level. It wicked it and completely reversed out. Same with silver, made 10K off the drop on Friday. Big drop gold, big drop. A lot of these things just pulled back, right? Bitcoin right now is ripping. That's why I kind of have like a sense that, everyone's getting bearish now. We're hitting some decent supports on SPY and QQ. I think we're going to see some green Monday. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised we go green and just push us back into this range. Bitcoin's pushing up. It's possible. And I like these setups. We have a lot of support down here. We hit my targets down here. So, we'll see. I'm not going to be looking for shorts down here for QQ from 611 to 600. We just have a lot of support and it's a lot of traffic. And I can show you the volume profile real quick. This kind of reiterates what I'm like looking at. So I like using the volume profile here. And this kind of just shows me, where the shelves are at. And you can see the traffic right here on the shelves. Good amount of traffic. It dries up in between 605, 602. So that just tells me my zones are working, right? Because if we lose that zone, I know we're coming down to that zone. And then at 600, they're holding it. So, we're kind of in this in between right here where there's orders, but, we're holding down here. We have a little bit more ahead of, above us now because of all those orders that kind of just stacked in this past week that were just kind of up there with it. So that, that just kind of tells us, or reinforces what we're seeing, and that's good. So we know, all right, as Rio Capital, I know I'm going to keep trusting the zones, right? Greens, buyers, red sellers. I understand that if we get above a red, it then turns green and then we run to the next red zone, right? So say we do something like this, we end up breaking. I'll be looking to see if we break this zone first, because if we hit it, it could easily come down and do something like that. So that's why I always wait for us to get above. We get above, then I know we're going to come to the next zone up. On top of that, we have a little bit of that sliver of that gap that we could not fill completely on Friday, right there in that gray shaded area. So I know that would just magnet us up to this zone. From there, that will be weekly highs, right? Last week's highs. If we break that, that's where you could easily be only playing that. You could be like, I'm waiting for weekly highs or weekly low breaks. Meaning if we end up breaking that high up here at 624.62, that would break last week's high. And we know we're running to 626. We know we're running to 628. We know we're advancing. Like it's just showing that we're, breaking higher. So again, you would win off that. Now, say vice versa, you're looking down here, right? If we end up losing 610, we know that it's going to drop to that next lower demand right here where I had the target. We'll hit 609, 608. We have a small gap even sitting there. So we know that under 1025, that blue line we perfectly hit. We're going to come down to that next zone and then possibly 606, 607, right? So you got to have those levels and you got to just trust them and just wait for the confirmation. Super simple. Now, SPY, I'm pretty bullish on SPY above that 680 level. That's a big level. Now we still have a lot of more support down. I would say 675 is a pretty decent support, but this purple level is a purple level. So I want to see, what exactly it does there. Anything could happen, but we're holding it. And if we trampoline off again, I can't get too bearish. I can't get too bearish. And the reason why I can't is because we're near all-time highs. SPY is near all-time highs. Look, we can see it in our, shout out to Carter there. Amazing work, man. I'm learning a lot. Shout out to Carter, man. Shout out to you guys learning. I can't get too bearish. So do not get too bearish on SPY. The reason why I say that is because all-time highs is in striking distance. This is just one trend day, one green day, and we're back at all-time highs and you're getting squeezed. So that's why, that's why I'm really reluctant to want to go SPY puts. Only time I did go SPY puts, obviously, it was Friday. And, I did play puts on SPY and QQ on that Wednesday as we pulled down. SPY ended up hitting that gap perfectly at 682 right here, which is beautiful. Again, zone to zone, we just played zones, but, that's the only time I'm going to be playing it is if there's a gap fill on SPY and I know I'm, on point with it. But I don't want to be short and too hard, too heavy, and being that we're this close to all-time highs and we have a gap up there. My God, any moment, if it's a low volume melts up, they might just do it, right? And you might find yourself in a weird situation where you might short and then it's low volume and they just melt it up and then we're all of a sudden, you can't close out. You're like, nah, maybe the next day we end up dumping, we end up ripping overnight, and we're already at all-time highs, right? So that's why I kind of warn you guys, do not get too bearish with SPY. QQ is a little bit different. We're not near all-time highs for SPY. You can get a little bit more bearish there, especially if tech is weak. But you'd have to check around the names, right? Tesla did sell off pretty nicely. Tesla has been weak. Yes. Okay. That's all right. It's going to affect Q. That does also affect SPY, but some of these names as well. One thing I did see was when SPY and Q were pushing up on Friday, Microsoft absolutely off a damn cliff. Absolutely off a damn cliff. And you can see it open up under that demand right there, meaning buyers could not hold it. And it absolutely dumped there. Market cannot go, QQ cannot go higher if Microsoft dumps. Market cannot go higher if Microsoft dumps. Absolutely disgusting, but it's true. And this maybe could be the cause of kind of the catalyst of how we ended up pulling down. Now we already know kind of the catalyst. I think market already was front running the raid with the new with the war news and all that. So maybe that's pretty much why we ended up kind of seeing that. And Friday, right? Friday, why we saw that kind of pull down. So yes, sir. All right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Microsoft. I saw that go red. It was like $4 down, and I was like, "Oh, no brainer. I'm shorting." Like that was the last straw for me. I wasn't even looking at SPY's chart or Q chart yet. I saw we pushed up, and when we pushed up, I was like, "All right, hold on, let me see." And once I looked around the watch, just real quick glance, Microsoft was down $4. I was like, "Oh, dude, yeah." I went right to SPY, and when SPY ended up pulling down right to my or my trigger level, it was game time. It was game time to go for it. So absolutely crazy stuff, but awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. I be streaming live, guys, for free. But if you want my trades, wap.com/Rio Capital, or check out riocap.com for more about Rio Cap and just understanding the organization. But wap.com/Rio Capital, get anything and everything. Start this year off strong with me, guys. Let's run it. It's a brand new year, and I'm ready to win. So join me and join the learning team, the winning team, King of the Open, baby. That's how we do it over here. Killing it, killing it, killing it, killing it, right? Quick $1,000 from me on SPY. Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. I was already posting gains. I think a lot of people maybe were caught off guard. I told the members, I'm watching SPY puts only. That was really the only thing. Of course, the lotto watch list I gave out as well worked perfectly. You can see I had like I think I had 3 upside plans and the rest like 6, 7 downside plans. I kind of just knew that, they were going to call the bluff on the upside and just end up pushing us down. So pretty cool stuff there. Just sticking to your levels as well. Stick to your levels and just kind of, trust that, as long as you got the right levels and you see these setups, right? Like gap fills, there's probably one time where maybe we didn't hit the gap that same day. We hit the gap, but didn't hit the gap. And we just held, but ended up filling the next day. So that's why I mostly always go 1-day expirations. Because if we don't feel it that day, then we'll likely feel it the next day. Now it's rare, but I have seen it to where we don't feel it that one day and we move up higher into the week. If we do that, we always feel it Friday. It's absolutely crazy, but we always do end up feeling it kind of that Friday. So pretty crazy stuff, but it is what it is. So the more times that you've kind of played it or understand it, the more, you'll be comfortable with winning off it, and things like that. So, that's why I'm very, very secure, or very, I would say I'm very confident when it comes to some of those setups because I played it so many times from gap fills. And that's why I just know what to look for and what to do. Very much so. So study it. I have videos, a lot of YouTube videos with gap fills and me going over, stuff I look for. And a lot of them is just kind of rewatching tape on how that day went, right? Pre-market, what to look for, what I'm going for, what's the calculated move, things like that. So check it out. Type in Rio Cap on YouTube. I know people on YouTube are watching right now. I'm streaming on there right now. And shout out to the Twitch people as well. But, for all the X people, for all the Twitter people that are watching right now, the main audience, jump on the Rio Cap YouTube. I got a lot of videos, and it's pretty much just me reviewing my plays, right? It's like you're on a football team, right? How are you not going to review some of your plays and be like, hey, this is where I went right, this is where I went wrong? That is honestly the best thing, right? Journaling, sure, is fine, but it doesn't feel real. Like writing it down, sure, you can really retain it and learn it, But for me, I got to go back into that. I go back into the field. I got to go back into the stadium when there is no one in the stands. There is no crowd. There is no cheering. There's no nothing. It's just reliving that moment of, you took that shot and maybe you missed it, or maybe you killed it. Maybe you got it. And what went right? I don't care if it's, I went wrong or went right. I'm still going to review, because how could I have done it better? How could I have done it better? Could I have held longer? Could I have just put stops with buy? Could my option selection been a little bit better? Could I have entered better? Where could I have gone better? And because of doing that, the muscle memory kind of kicks in, and I promise you, when the next gap up works, or the next gap up happens, that's the first thing that goes in my mind. Pre-market, I start looking at things. I'm like, okay, check. Like, where's my checklist now? I'm looking at my checklist. All right, I'm looking for this. Check. All right, it's doing that. Check. All right, volume's there. This is looking good. All right, what day is it? All right, what time is it? All right, let's do it. What am I looking for? Are we gonna start hitting the gap on the hourly? What's it looking like? Do we got a daily gap? Do we got a 15? What's the damage here? What's the calculated move? What's the prices at for the contracts? Sometimes I have to go TQQ puts, because QQ is too like juiced up, and QQ is a lot, or TEQ is a lot cheaper, and it's a weekly contract. So if I somehow get it wrong, I still got all week knowing we're going to hit that gap, right? So the selection, the stock, the option selection is just as important. So definitely kind of keep that in mind, I would say, and yeah, keep that in mind. Reviewing is always the best thing to do. So I got a lot of videos. I review. I post a lot of my streams that I live stream, that sometimes I don't post to YouTube, or I post them now to YouTube, but sometimes I won't live stream it to YouTube. I'll just post the whole video. So I got streams on there as well. So check it out. Go subscribe. Show some love. It's just good content. I don't see anybody else giving out content like I am when it comes to straight up explaining it. Straight up explain. I've never seen anybody explain a gap fill. I've never seen anybody explain it. I had a trader, a really good trader, back when I first started trading, early first year. He goes, gaps always fill. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was like, whatever. Like, I don't even know what that even means. Like, what is a gap? I don't know what that means. It wasn't until years later where I was like, where we start getting downturned, like we start seeing selling off in the market. And I was like, oh, holy shit. Like, that gap that we created on July, we filled it in December. And I was like, is that what he meant? And I was like, that's probably what he meant, right? If we see a stock that just moves all the gaps up, goes, eventually it comes down and fills those gaps. And so that was kind of like my theory. That was kind of like the theory I was introduced to, but I was never introduced to, like, 15-minute hourly gaps creating overnight, right? I didn't know SpyX created gaps every single day, because, look at that. This gap's still open on SpyX, right? Meaning SPY could work there on those puts. I'm sure SPY has a gap there as well. Again, look at this. And I'm looking at SpyX here. This is on the 22nd, 12:20. Look at that gap that it created. It was open. It's still open, right? Or it was still open. And if we look across where we filled, or where it got filled, it filled on Friday. Notice that. Notice that gap and go. We gap and goed there into the week. So it still left it open. And you can see, SpyX ended up, gapping down and then coming down and finally dropping into that, going into, it actually looks like it did it on the 31st. So that Wednesday, right? That's where we got it. Either way, we're just in that area. And that gap filled, you can see right there. So again, it's, the market loves, and here's another thing. No one taught me this. I learned it my own, and I'm telling you guys, the market loves to fill a gap and run to the next gap. For some reason, it just loves to do that. It filled this gap. I would not be shocked that it ends up pulling back up and eating this gap up there, right? Or I would not be shocked if we end up selling off and eating this gap, right? We have gaps above and below now. It's going to make its decision on which way we're going to go. If I had to take a stab at it and just guess, just purely throw a dart on the board, I think we're going up. I think we're going to push up. And that's just because I know we're hitting a lot of like major levels of support. So I would say we end up coming down to this, or coming, holding here and then coming back up. And then, at some point coming down, eating that if that's not the next move. So I would say, yeah, keep an eye on these gaps. Keep an eye on, you know, some of these moves because, you know, these could be these are type of moves that could easily be coming, and you won't even know it, right? Things could be selling off, and you'd be like, "Can I trust this sell off here? Can I trust this move down?" Okay, Spy X has this gap open, and we're still at it, right? We created this gap on 1222, and we're coming down into it, you know, Wednesday, Friday, and yeah, okay, it's valid. Okay, I can trust this sell off. I can trust, you know, the pull down here. I can trust this. And I wouldn't even say trust. I would say you can take this calculated move, this calculated decision of the calculated chance of going for it, right? And that's probably the best thing you can do is just calculated chances, calculated decisions, calculated moves. That's how I look at it. This is the best probability that puts are going to work, so I'm going with puts, right? That's the whole mindset behind it. If we have a gap here and we have a lot of resistance above us, I'm looking at SPY, right? If we have all this in our way and in my favor, then the highest probability of puts working will be right here, right now on this move. It's not going to be up here. It's not going to be over here. It's not going to be down here. It's not going to be, you know, it's understanding when the probabilities are in your favor and just going for it. So I think that's one awesome way to look at it as well. I don't know if you guys kind of look at it or think of it like that as well, but definitely, you know, one way to look at it and, you know, bank off it and things like that. So pretty cool stuff though. But if you're still learning and you're still, you know, trying to learn the reins, then I got you, you know, follow me, get my trades, wap.com/Ryu Capital. You can learn with me and you can learn why, you know, bank with me and then learn why we took the trade. Okay. We had, you know, I followed you on puts there. We banked off puts. Well, why'd you take that? Oh, gap fill. Oh, right. It did that. Okay. I'm seeing it now. And once you start learning it and seeing it, I'm telling you're going to be right there with me, you know, ready to go. So that's the super cool thing about it as well. Super cool thing about it. All right. Appreciate 170 plus of y'all showing up, guys. Appreciate y'all showing up. Questions, let me know. If not, really, I just wanted to hop on here, show you guys some of these setups. Again, you know, this is just one of those moves that you can make a lot of money and they're everywhere, right? Let's go look at gold real quick. Gold has a massive gap up here on the 4 hour, 1 hour up to the upside. So, you know, that if we end up breaking a certain level higher, I would say above the 408 could probably go straight there because of my zone. We break that, end up going into this area, then yeah, I think it's good. Now, I would probably be like, well, when's the last time we were at this kind of area? Okay. The last time we were at this area was that day we ended up selling off, right? Right there. Okay, where did that open up? Oh, we opened up under that 410 level. Okay, well then when we crack or at least open above that 410.75, I know I'm good for calls up to 415. So that's a $5 move on some gold contracts. I'll take it. That's a good move. Cool. So simplify it, guys. Don't be like, all right, I'm gonna front run it all the way down here because at some point we're just gonna rock it right back up into this. And we could, but you're completely front running it. And like I said, being early is just as bad as being wrong. Be on time. Be on time. Friday, we were on time. Friday, we were ready for it. On time, showed up, good to go, went for it. Easy as that. So don't play around, guys. Look, the gaps are everywhere. You just got to look for them, do a little bit of scanning. And if they line up with your, you know, levels, even better. So that's how you know you definitely could be banking pretty heavily. Pretty cool stuff here. Pretty cool stuff. Look at that zone to zone for Tesla. Tesla Friday is just zone to zone. Tesla didn't just randomly stop in 439, 436 demand for no reason. Buyers were there. We didn't just sell out of this zone right here on Friday right there. This was a demand that ended up turning supply, meaning sellers took over. Buyers couldn't quite do it. They tried holding it, right? Couldn't quite do it. So again, that's kind of how it works when it comes to real cap strategy. If you want these zones, I do post them every night for game plans for members. So members get those as well every night. Targets, right? Target above here, slam calls below that, slam puts. And these are the same plans that I take every single day and how I win. So if you want my trades, zones, all that, I got you guys, wild.com/Ryu Capital. I appreciate y'all showing up. Let me know if y'all need anything, DM me, anything like that. I got you. And you know, we can go from there. So let me know. Anyways, all right. I appreciate y'all showing up, guys. Have a good rest of y'all Saturday. I will be streaming around this time tomorrow, normal time, really, 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, for the night stream. We'll see what futures are looking like. Let's see if they're red from the war or super green. What happens? We don't know. We'll go over setups on things I'm looking at and ready to play for Monday. And let's get it going, right? Start first full week of the new year in January. And let's do this and let's do it. I'm ready to go. We got some volatility, I'm sure, showing up with the news and stuff like that. So it's got to be something good, right? So let's get it. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all showing up. Have a good rest of y'all Saturday. I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. Let's kill it this year, guys. Sign up for the yearly. Just get it out the way. Get the yearly. Get it going, and let's lock in, guys. I need y'all with me so we can win side by side together. Make the money. Run it up, guys. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. A lot of people. I'm gonna rant real quick, but a lot of people think you need to be so locked in on trading all day and every day, and you really don't. As long as you give me the first hour of market open, I'm gonna get you banking. Move on with your day. Move on with your job. Move on with your life. Move on with whatever you got to do with the day, and that's all I'm asking. Right? Show up to my live sessions at night. We have our game plans. You can visually see it and be like, all right, let's see what happens. We wake up the next day, see what kind of changed, see if the game plans are still set, and then go for it and make that money, whatever we can make, and then you move on with your day. So if you want to learn more, RioCap.com. If you want to sign up, WAP.com/RioCapital. Again, whatever y'all need, just DM me on Twitter or wherever you can. Twitter, Rico Capital. So get on Twitter, type in Rico Capital. You'll find me. Instagram, Rico.capital. Go follow me on Instagram. I'm starting to post some content on there. So go show some support on that as well. So, all right. Appreciate y'all showing up, guys. Have a good